Hello everybody, Debbie here from Easy Piano Styles, and this is the first in a series of lessons on playing by ear. So I would like to take some of the mystery out of doing that. We're going to start with a simple folk song, Red River Valley, and we're going to do it, I think we'll do it, we're going to do it in the key of D, okay? So the first thing we do is we're going to pick out the melody, and that's really trial and error. We're going to start on an A. You could start on whatever note you want, but if we're doing it in the key of D, then you would start on an A. And you want to sing it to yourself. La 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 la. You take it phrase by phrase. Now if we're in the key of D, we have two sharps in that, right? F sharp and C sharp. So, most of the time, the F will be sharp and the C will be sharp. Once in a while, that might not happen. But for the most part, you can count on the accidentals that are in the scale that you're doing, the key that you're playing the song, and will pertain and will apply to the melody. So, if I'm starting on A, you can hear how that's a big leap, right? La, la, la. That's actually outlining a D chord, which is the chord that happens on the first beat. Now when you're trying to figure out songs by ear, choose folk songs. Those are the best songs to start with, because they generally have chords that are the 1 chord, the 4 chord, and the 5 chord. Just those 3 chords in them. And that's where you want to begin, if you're a beginner doing this. Okay, so say we sounded out the melody. Again, I recommend singing, doing it in small chunks, figuring out a phrase, determining whether the note's going up or down, if it's leaping or if it's stepping. I forget the words. This is all done by ear. I'm not reading anything. Okay. The next thing you're going to do is determine where you feel like there's a chord. Where is there an emphasis? Would you put a chord right here? Of course you would. Da 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 da. And here. La da. And here. La da. And here. Chord. 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 Chord, 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 chord. Sometimes there's a chord when there's no melody note actively playing and when it's just held. So, where are those chords? Those chords are generally happening at the beginning, or what's called the downbeat, of every measure. There is a chord. So, nothing there. Those are pickup notes. There's no emphasis there. But then we have a very strong beat. Da, 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 and that's where a chord would go. Alright, then we have to determine what chord. We're going to choose between 3 chords. We have, in the key of D, our primary chords are D, G, these are major chords, D chord, G major, and A7. D, G, and A7. So we have to determine which of those chords is going to belong on these downbeats. And we're going to do it by trial and error. So we start here. Trial and error, but with using your ear, of course. It's not just out of the blue. For example, when we play, when I'm here, that's an F sharp in the right hand. The chord in the left hand, 90% of the time, is going to have the melody note in it. So what chord has an F sharp in it? Well, does the G have an F sharp in it? No. Does the A7 have an F sharp in it? No. So let's go with the 1 chord, which is the D. And I would say 75% of the songs start with the 1 chord. Whatever key you're in, the 1 chord the first note, the third note, and the fifth note in that key. The scale of that key will be the first chord of the song. Not always, but especially for folk songs. So we have a D. Okay, now this is another chord. We can either repeat the D or it might move. So let's try moving it and see what happens. Let's do the A7. Yuck. Let's try the G. Now that sounds like it could go, so we might use that. Now let's try the D. Ah, that feels better. So while G might be possible, you're going to go back and forth between which is best. And sometimes you have to figure out more of the song to put the chords in context, and then you really hear what sounds right and what doesn't. So, and you might want to write the chords down as you go so you don't forget. Alright, now we have another chord, and we have a B for a melody. Which of the chords, the D, the G, or the A7 has a B in it? Well, of course, the G chord does. So we'll try that from the top. And I'm going to invert it. Right? I took the G chord, G, B, D, and I inverted it. Now we need another chord, and it's an F sharp, so let's use our D again. Now here we have another chord. We have an A in the right hand. Which chord should we try? Well, we could try the A chord, but it's too soon. That's not going to work. We want to stay on the D. Now we have a chord. We have an E in the right hand. What are we going to use for left hand? To stay with the D? No. G? No. A7. Works perfectly. And in folk songs, lots of times you have halfway through the song, you will have the 5/7 chord at the end of that phrase. So, ba, 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 ba. Here's our 5/7 chord, which is the A7. It's halfway through the end of the first phrase, and then the next phrase. We're in F sharp, so let's go with that D again. Stay with the D. Now we have da, da. We want, it's an A, so we could do the A7. That doesn't sound right. Let's do the G. Aha, that works. Now here's a case where the melody note is not in the chord, right? The A is dissonant, but it's supposed to be that way. We add flavor that way. Here's our A, and then it resolves down to the G. And the second to the last chord, 90% of the time in folk tunes, the second to last chord will be the 5/7 chord, which is the A7. Down. Because that's the dominant seventh, and that wants to go back to the D chord. So the first thing you do is you figure out the melody. The next thing is you figure out where the strong beats are, where the emphasis is within that melody, and where chords go. And then you go through and you decide which of those three chords is going to work based on the note you're playing in the right hand, because usually that note will be in the chord, not always. And then you just use your ear to see what sounds right and play it over and over. If something doesn't sound right in the context of the song, change the chord. Okay, and we'll have another lesson next week on playing by ear. Hope you enjoyed that practice. Just choose different folk songs that you like and you get a lot out of it. It's not really that hard to do. Okay, have fun. Bye-bye.